Here's my little disclaimer. I just want to start out by giving people, anyone listening to this, a trigger warning because I speak the truth, and in this sensitive world of political correctness and lies, because you're either correct or you're not correct. But when you're politically correct, you're making a statement about politics, and you're telling me that politics is lies, and there's a whole lot of tolerance. So that's the level that I'm on in speaking the truth. And for any of you niggas, I'm not gonna let it be a secret. They sucked me through some type of fucking vortex thing, like when you see that movie called Boss Level, and I went through some type of eye of CERN, and I ended up in the inner temple, and God sent me back here. So I speak the truth without fear. And a lot of you are scary niggas. This podcast ain't for you. Jesus only had 12 disciples, and one of them was a traitor. He was a rat. Not the same as Master Shredder, Master Splinter. I'm quite different. I'ma tell you the truth. I'ma tell you the truth. And you're gonna bear the truth. And if you bear the truth, and you find that the truth is not pleasant, and therefore you do have to bear it, just know that you're the light bearer, Lucifer. And I'm putting a fucking torch on you, and you can't handle it. I watch it every time people listen to this. The contortion of their faces, the confusion, and that confusion is the lies that they live with. Because you can't be confused on things that you don't know about unless you understand the lies and you understand the truth that I'm speaking. So, I'm warning you now, 90% of you guys ain't built for this. Click the fuck off. But yeah, I got sent through a vortex. And when I got sent back, there's a dimension for any of these secret niggas, no rituals. It is quite possible. I don't know how the fuck it works. But yes, there's a whole dimension that has a whole lot of territory inside of my body. You see, you have your physical body and your spiritual body. Alright? And what they did is they made it upon me where when you think of it, and this is how they tell themselves on, this is how crazy reality is. When you see that movie Crank and he has to keep his heartbeat up or anything like that, listen. Whatever happens, if this thing goes off, there's an energy inside of me that's going to release, because my body is still alive and there's other realms. You guys might not understand that. Those in the secret will understand it. Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this realm. There are other realms and my body is still there. That means I'm holding, it would appear that I'm holding back a whole lot of fucking antimatter. All right. A whole lot of chaotic energy. And the ways of this world is going towards an end, because eventually people going in their own way is going to obscure any new babies being born. That's why God called this earth the barren womb. Women do not deal with men anymore. I don't know. Even when I see it, their relationship together, it don't look right. It's missing hella shit. It's not just missing something, it's missing everything. All right, the chemistry is missing, right? It's not a natural affection. So babies, I think a lot of babies are coming through surrogate ways, and this is okay for people, but the way that babies are brought into this world at that point in time, they're not being brought in the natural way. So they're already coming in with a bunch of complications and oppression. All right, people are not dealing with the womb or the egg anymore. Not the men, and especially not the women. I don't know what's going on with it, because people will do anything for money, even deny their own life. People's minds are muddled so bad that they will forsake their own physical life for $1. And how does a dead person spend money? Well, we see it all the time, but we also know that rich people seem to not be able to be fulfilled. The more they make of it, the more grief they get somehow. Now, isn't that funny? That's a whole lot of sorcery. So that's my disclaimer. I'm speaking on this level, and that's all I could tell you. This is not for most people. Most people are easily triggered, and they cannot handle the truth, just like Jack Nicholson said in A Few Good Men. If you cannot handle the truth, save yourself, man. Click off, because this ain't like any other podcast in the world. I come straight from the hip. I have not heard other people shoot this shit out like this. Yeah, I'm coming straight from the hip. I don't put no dressings on it. I don't exaggerate it. I don't have to sensationalize nothing, right? The only thing that's sensational in this world is a lie, and people are highly obsessed with it. So that's my disclaimer. Peace and blessings be with you all. If you're easily triggered, get the fuck off my channel. And quite frankly, I'm gonna tell you from here, can't none of y'all do shit, because I'm a black man in America and I've been denied my rights. So we gonna have to put all those other high officials up on treason charges first. So ain't nobody fucking with me. And we'll just keep it willy-nilly, and we'll keep this secret between us little girls. I'm out. Yeah. All right, what up, man? Today in this podcast right here, all right, it's going to be called Overhand Right. All right. Don't sleep on the overhand right. You know, a lot of times in boxing, when niggas is boxing and shit, when I look at these fights and shit like that, one thing that is crazy is that fucking overhand right, man, because you know what I'm saying? When people throw that overhand right, you know what I'm saying? They duck in low, and the person's like, oh, okay, they low. And they're, you know what I'm saying? They're fixated on the target of hitting them in the head. But that right is coming over the top and just clobbers them and puts them into a NyQuil state. You know, the shit is crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie, that overhand right, that is a sneaky punch, man. That is a sneaky punch that, you know what I'm saying? I'll tell you what, like a lot of fighters, they just can't deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, that's a nightmare. I don't want to get one of them overhand rights, because I don't think you could really practice, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like countering an overhand right. If it misses you, you know what I'm saying, you're blessed. You know, that's what I think. And you know, considering blessings, like a lot of times people are grateful for many things, right? Now I want you to pay attention to what I said. I said people are grateful for many things. Trinkets, toys, possessions that end up possessing them, falsities. People are even blessed with lies that fill their head, in which they perceive or believe that they know something to be true, and in fact, it is a lie. To have knowledge of the lie would breed a lot of secrets. And if you have secrets, If you're taught lies and those lies are told to be kept secret, and you have to tell lies to keep that secret, then quite frankly, you don't have anything. And those lies will also devour your mind. You know, when it comes to certain parties and groups, people nowadays are so backwards. The more they are disrespected by someone, the more they value that individual. And I think that is very strange. But the people who are nice to them, they look down on them as trash. You know, that's the way that I'm treated in my life. I mean, by all walks of the standard. All walks of the standard. Keep in mind, I don't have any friends. Figure it out. Something is very wrong here. Right? And these same people who constantly get disrespected, they have all these movements, and I know why. Because they only deal in their circles, and they disrespect the people who are outside of their circles. And the ones that are inside their circles, that have access to them, treat them like shit. And they fucking love them for it. It really is a S&M culture. You know, and I'm not talking about sex, but I'm just talking about in terms of relationships and, you know, backstabbing and people being cutthroat, the whole nine. You know, common phrase that women garner attention to that is very surprising. When they see a dude that they like, they definitely want to know if you share. And it's just kind of like, okay, what exactly do you mean by that? This is interesting to me. You got to take in mind, I'm a nigga that came up through the 90s. So, you know, niggas used to be wildly protective over their girlfriends or their wives. Now, any days anymore, these dudes' girlfriends, man, they be drooling. And the dudes are just kind of like, it's cool, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't really care. Like, their girlfriend is fucking straight up, you know what I'm saying, undressing a nigga right in front of the boyfriend. The boyfriend's just like, whatever, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be thinking to myself, my God, son, what type of torment did she put you through? Right? Not that she, you know what I'm saying? What type of torment did she put you through? And, you know, they just, you know, maybe for them, it's just like, you know what? I know how she is, and it's not worth the trouble. It's not worth the trouble. This guy over here, he's minding his business. He don't give two fucks. But my girlfriend, you know, she's all over the place, right? I think that's interesting. And what does it say to our culture in regards to the babies? Okay, babies come into this world, green behind the ears, bright-eyed, and what have you. You know, in my earlier years in childhood, I thought life was great. I thought it was magnificent. I thought that life was a piece of cake, literally, a slice of heaven. You know, I was experiencing life and new things in life, going to school, and all of these things were new. Remember how excited you were on your first day of school, right? All the new people you met, all the new faces that you've seen. You even seen people from different cultural backgrounds, the whole nine. And you're all in this diverse bunch group inside of a classroom, and you're learning together, and you get to do activities and you work together, and everybody's fucking waiting for recess because, like, basically, that's what school was about. School was about fucking recess, eating snacks, and we all hated fucking nap time. But things are so complicated now, man. Everything is so ultra competitive. It really is. You know, if you want if you have a child and you want that child because college is insane, the price of college is insane, and you want him to play in the NBA, oh my gosh. Not only does he have to be pressurized through his childhood to be Michael Jordan at the earliest age possible, but also, I mean, you know, he has to grow up very prematurely. And he's suitcased in a file folder in terms of basketball, as in all things have to be centralized around basketball. The NBA becomes their god, right? And they got to do all of this thing from an early age all the way, fucking, man, the amount of pressure, right? The amount of pressure. Kids in their extended after school programs probably sitting outside with a 40 ounce and a fucking pack of Newports like, shit, Let me loosen up this fucking necktie, man. It's been a hell of a day. Dude, look at all these files in my briefcase. I got so much homework from everybody. I gotta practice basketball. Fuck all this shit. Now what can I cut in order to play that sport? Right? When we speak of our education system and the education system of those overseas and what have you, and how their education system is garnered. And one thing is in terms of how their education system is garnered. Another thing is where the point of focus is. And the point of focus generally in America is we are a big sports industry, right? Our athletes are fucking insane, dude. These guys are fucking, dude, I don't know what these guys are made out of, right? Fuck. You find shit nowadays. I seen this boxing video. It's this little Russian girl, and she's punching a fucking tree, literally. And she just beats that fucking thing apart. The bark's flying off and everything. Little tiny thing. I think she's like maybe 10 years old. Tough as shit, right? She would beat the brakes off of me, dude. She probably would. I'd be terrified. I'd be like, listen, I'll get you some ice cream instead. How about that? We'll meet after school after we get some ice cream. And then, during the ice cream eating, I'll talk things over with her and make things nice. Because these kids, let me tell you, they're on a different level. They are grown. And I just think it's important, any walk of life, that they get to experience their childhood also to the fullest. I mean, parents are turning into Joe Jackson everywhere. Really. I mean, because it's important. The parents know the drive and the competitive nature of our society, so that they have to push those kids like, hey, you got to get your shit together, because if you don't, you're not going to fucking college. You're not going to be able to, support yourself or anything like that. So in order to get the educational, nutritional value or resources from school, that's going to be cut off unless the kid is incredibly gifted or a savant in a certain type of thing, because college is just ridiculous. And we say that something is wrong with our education. Well, the first thing wrong with it is the price of education. Now, how is it that other countries, and some places are probably even third world countries, which really value knowledge and really value education, right? How are they coming up in India being like way smarter, and they're like, America is diverse, so they come over here and they become doctors and Africans, and it's awesome. Like, I love it when I have a foreign doctor, because I'm like, yo, this dude, he knows exactly what the fuck he's talking about. He wasn't concerned with basketball or anything else. This guy was excited to get a fucking textbook. That's a whole mentality that is different, that is garnered towards a profession. And which, when somebody lives like that with a sport mentality towards education, man, they're gonna zip right past the Americas, where we rely heavily on technology. And technology is not the end all be all. I mean, as far as forecasting trends and things of this nature, nobody has done it better than the Holy Spirit and, Jesus Christ, of course, and the Holy Spirit that was breathed into men in times before, and the prophets of old. They were talking about today's time and the future, and we're dealing with computers that has a technology, okay, that is just now being able to garner something called anticipatory intelligence. Well, that's been around for a long time amongst men, and they've been very accurate with it. Even, I think, I can't think of this guy, man. And he was like a famous, I think he was like either a philosopher or scientist, and super popular. And he predicted like many fucking things, like World War II. Oh man, he predicted so much stuff. And I don't think he was particularly a religious guy either. But we've taken the value out of human capabilities in the mind. And we also have to remember that it's minds that go into building these computers. And even though computers have the capacity to store more knowledge than human beings, like, the algorithm is set by human beings. That means there's always going to be a limitation in the scope. It can't do a full 360 view. It can't do it. It's too spiritual. So you can always work in between the guise of what, technology cannot see. And it will always be faltered in the fact that it was made by by the human mind. Okay, and the human mind is only as great as what it knows at that time, and what it knows at that time is generally what it has been taught and what it has meditated upon. All the crazy ideas back in the day, I remember when people thought it was crazy that people would pay for internet. I thought it was crazy when I thought people would ever pay for bottled water when you could just get it straight out of the tap. And look where we're at now. I mean, in fact, the software guys were laughing their head off when Bill Gates said that he wanted to charge people for software. We all thought that was ridiculous. Many people forget these steps, right? But look, we all do it now. We all do it now. Now, certain people, I know, Nerve Gorilla, in fact, is able to find, he's like, well, you could find any, and I don't even, you guys, I don't really know Nerve Gorilla. But I know he, like, especially towards like so-called targeted individuals, he has this deep disdain. But one thing I will say about Nerve Gorilla that I can admire, because I respect it as an attribute pertaining to knowledge. Nerve Gorilla is at least a guy that will dive into a genre to understand it, even if he completely disagrees with it. And I'm the same way. I give credit where it's due. All right. Of all the things you could say about this guy, he is open-minded, and he's willing to show or share his resources in terms of where he is able to find things. Being resourceful is an attribute that humans have had for a very long time. But more and more as technology grows, we become more reliant on the machine. And now we're doing the whole mother's milk situation out of factories. What does that say about mothers? What does it say about this whole liberation movement? Where is it going to guide us? And was that a plan that was forecasted? Is that an agenda? Anybody who has a rational set of mind will notice that it was an agenda. And anybody that are in that, alternative lifestyle of living, I guarantee you there's many of them that will say, you know what? I've dated many people, and the vast majority of them, it was merely a fetish. It really wasn't the way that they was moving. They really did. It was really nothing more than something superficial. And that's got to be frustrating for the people who are really involved in that. You also get what you kind of look for. But, as far as like the dating game and the love game and everything like that, it is a huge game more than anything else. Whereas before, in older times, when you get to 60s or 70s, these things were taken very seriously. Somebody you dated had to meet your parents. You didn't have to be getting married, but yeah, they had to meet your parents. Now everything is just free range like the chickens, and we're running around with chickens like with our heads cut off. Okay. So, I want to talk about a few things, and one of the things that I want to talk about is is babies. And this thing, you guys, I will say this. This is a theory, kinda. Okay, it's kind of a theory, but the dots do connect together if you follow me. All right, hypothetically, I'm just thinking hypothetically, when two people get together and they have a child, or a woman gets pregnant, okay, where do babies come from? And we all say, well, the sperm goes into the egg, and then the fucking egg generates the baby. Yes, it generates the vessel. It generates the body of the baby. All right, the three-dimensional vessel. All right, and the baby is somehow formed in the quantum matrix of the womb. All right. Think of your programs, 3D Studio Max, Cinema 4D, what have you. The body is formed. Tetrahedrons put together and molded by the finites of nutrients and clay in the earthen vessel. And those polygraphs in that matrix come together like some type of 80s video game, as in a computer, like a game like Asteroid. You may just be moving a polygraph around the lower end of the screen, and those things connect together and form the shape and the sphere of the head and the baby and the body, right? And so 9 months pass along, and then you know what I'm saying, the young woman gives birth, all right, to this beautiful creature that we call a baby that looks like a blob of goo. Babies, I mean, honestly, to me, they're adorable, but they also look like, they literally are like that blob of shit that you see on the emoji. They literally look like that. They're just like a goop. And they got these big eyes that are like mercury color that just like reflects everything, you know. And they're just like, you know, looking around, and all they could see is just like shadows and figures and things like that. And they come into the world. And the first thing that they see as the water breaks and they start coming out, what happens? What is that called when a baby starts to come out of the womb? They call it crowning, right? The crown of life is giving birth to a baby, all right? Now, when you think of four-dimensional shapes and what have you, it is a shape that is in perpetual motion. If you take a cube, right, and the front end of the cube is smaller, and then it grows to get bigger, and then the back, as it's getting bigger, the front of the cube, the back end of the cube is getting smaller and pushing through the wider end of the cube. That is no different than a baby crowning. The 2 points at the top of the cube represent the mother and the father. When they're closer together, they're conjoined, they're coming together, okay? And then the back end of that square is concentrated into a smaller square as it pushes through this vortex, right? It pushes through a vortex, or like a wormhole, right? And it comes into our 3D physical dimension, right? And it's like, oh man, what the fuck is this shit, right? Its mind has to go on in the next couple of years, forming and learning things and making its own associations, much like a computer, but much more capable. So by relying on technology so much, we are degrading the mind and the values and the capacity for one to learn new things. It diminishes over time in this world full of distractions and where we place our attention as well. So, what about the spirit, however, of that baby? The spirit of that baby and the soul of that baby come from somewhere else. That does not come from the testicle. Only half of the matter in which it takes, or the matter in which it takes to form that baby. Because when you think about Dragon Ball Z, right? They have that gravity machine. And what is that gravity machine shaped like? It's shaped like an egg, isn't it? Right? So Goku or Vegeta or whatever goes into this thing that is like in the shape of an egg, and they train like crazy at 300 times gravity, right? In order to build stronger muscles and things like that. And they come out and they reach a new level and they have a different form, don't they? How is that different than a baby? And how is that any different than the womb of life being in this egg-shaped earth? Allegedly, right? I'm not going to get into that because it gets into structural formats. Flat earthers, I understand. It goes a little bit deeper than that also, though. Okay? But, you know what I'm saying? The baby comes into this world, and the spirit of that baby, okay, and the soul of that baby comes into this world. Now, moving on from this thing, now when two people get together and the woman becomes pregnant, like when you go to fast food and they got like 50 fucking tickets and the guy in New York is like screaming, all right, how many fucking orders is up? Is that God like trying to figure out like how to fucking make the soul or the spirit of those babies? Right? Is he like flipping patties and burgers around that represents the baby to shovel it onto a bun and throw it out into the world? Is that how it works? Is he doing that all the time? Or has he already created all the spirits that need to be created and all the souls that need to be created? It is written in the Bible that he knew everyone before they were even born, and every thought that would circumvent their mind. Every thought, the thoughts that you'll have today, The thoughts that you will have years from now, he will know. In such straits for those who don't believe, how in such case can there be synchronicities or coincidences at all if that was not the case? We're giving too much intelligence to inanimate objects and randomness of equations. But how random are things? Obviously, scientists do not believe that this earth was randomly crafted together. Neither would the people say so at CERN. Why else would they mitigate a study in which science can be appropriated towards something? Because without there being some type of purpose, there could not be science either. So therefore, the spirit and the soul of that child comes from elsewhere. All right. And your 3D clay structure, all right, the organic material matter, that is all you're capable of producing. You have a part of the creation process. That's a blessing of God. But you do not create the actual baby. The living principle and the animating principle of a body is a spirit. Without the spirit, you would not be able to move your fingers or walk around. You wouldn't be able to do any of that, right? It just wouldn't be possible. Now, in science, they found that they were able to create organs such as a heart, okay? It was either a heart or a lung, I think I read. It was late 90s, probably 98, 99 when I read this article. Somewhere around there. Maybe early 2000s, I don't know. Getting old. But basically, after they created it, what the scientists found is that they could not get that heart or that organ to function on its own. They could not get it to work. All right? So what they found is that they also needed electricity as well. Hello, Mr. Dr. Frankenstein. Right? And they could Frankenstein this organ as in a car if they were to give it to a chance to jump start a charge, that spark that would change the world. They would provide very little bit of energy to it. And it just needed a little push, and then the organ functioned properly on its own, even without a body. And I'm pretty sure it was a heart. And the reason why I say a heart is because oftentimes during the development of a baby, the heart will develop. Your heart is the first organ to develop. After the heart develops, right, the heart has to be conscious because then it forms the brain. So the heart is stronger and mightier than your brain. Its conscious prowess has a deeper connection not only to earth and all things greater than the brain. The brain is a computer. It is no different than a server that serves the function of the heart. That's how it's supposed to be. But in such ways, in our knowledge, we have found pride and we become reliant on our brains first. And that was the first step into knowledge. And what did the brain create? Something in its own likeness, in its own image. There we have babies, but equative to the babies and the scientific factors, we have created computers and gathered more resources so that it could store more information. And those computers have to grow, don't they? Those quantum computers and supercomputers, as more and more information is surfaced. And as more information is surfaced, who surfaces or finds that information? The computer is capable of calculations and computations to make things more efficient, but new discoveries are left to man, and this is written in the Bible. A king searches out the things, searches out mysteries. A computer cannot search out mysteries. It has to be driven by a brain. It has to be driven by a mind. Now, the difference between your brain and your mind is your mind is the consciousness of your heart, and your brain is its computational factors. Your heart first has a desire, an innovation, an inspiration to know something. And that desire is developed to grow and promote and motivate the brain to seek those things out. Like a chain link between the two fucking gears of a bike. Working together, it drives the force behind the brain, knowing that the brain both needs blood and needs both blood and oxygen. Where does all the blood go in your body? From the heart and back to the heart. The brain doesn't have nothing to do with it. In fact, there are some people that may suffer vegetative states as their brain stops working, but they're still able to survive. Isn't that interesting? And in those things, I wouldn't be surprised if those individuals still have the capacity to dream. How is that possible? So we know that the heart is mightier, but in chasing the bread, people have started going with the brain and they crossed out their heart, and now they walk around like vampires, seeking blood of those off the streets and who they can manipulate. And we watch the movies and we fill our faces with popcorn and gluttony as we watch the massacres on the 6 o'clock news, and we thank God that it wasn't us having no sympathy. These are the things, and then people, as they go further in such ways and relying on their brain, and the brain is the way of the world. A self-serving computer, a computer is only worried about itself. The brain is only worried about itself. Okay? The brain is not specifically worried about any of your other organs. The heart would be worried about it. The heart would be like, what's going on there? That's what drives the brain to point and look at those areas. But your brain is like, well, I don't know what's wrong with that. It's nothing I could do about it. So I don't really care. Right? Selfish, self-serving. Now get to these societies and the ways of how they spend their money on different pleasures. And in their gifts of charity, they do it more so for themselves and their reputation than it is towards benefiting the others. The world has closed up like a fist, and there are no givers, and those who give become manipulated, and then they have to become selfish by force. And we know not of mind control, because our mind is crossed out and we have become vampires. In such ways we garner or venerate in these secret societies the sun. We revere it and its power and its ways in which the rays of it, given in its rage, could devour us whole. Knowing that we cannot bear it or even look upon it and look upon its brilliance. And how many ways does that God appear like Lucifer or a diamond in the sky? Brilliant in its greatness. It shines out and it violates the brightness of others. And the moon is like the man who manipulates and reflects that light to steal a bit of that light to become like a werewolf and reflect the light of the sun. And is not the moon reliant on the brightness of the sun in order to shine? And does it have a shine of its own? And does it not have a dark side? And is it not representative of man as it doesn't follow a cycle? Listen to me, women, one time a month. Maybe y'all niggas can keep up. But I highly doubt it, because you're working off of computational values. I'm giving you CPR, but I just can't get your heart to work. Charity was never for God. That's not what the donation plate was for. It was because giving was good for the heart. And we forgot about that. The heart trapped in the closet with Jeffrey Dahmer on the outside, and he doesn't know himself. Injecting liquid Drano into the veins of his arteries. And still it beats on, it's so damn determined. And I'm fighting for life. But the others do not recognize it. They only recognize Mammon. Mammon is Egyptian for money. And everything in the world is a pyramid scheme. No matter how you look at it, how many CEOs do you have? And how many work on the bottom floor? And that's quite literal, and I've showed you the dynamics from spiritual to physical. That which is spiritual to physical, from heart to brain. Your brain is the physical material. It is the innovation and inspiration, and if you're a scientist and don't believe in God, a creation of the desires of your heart. And we want to rely on its creation, not greater than it. And we want this machine to rule and lead us. And now we become a culture of Elysium. And we haven't even gotten there, so nobody sees it. And that's how short-sighted is the brain. But the heart is quite different. So they call a nigga crazy. Then later they shut their fucking mouth. Taken into these secret societies and things of this matter. And all these empty promises and rituals, all these brains that are gathered together in their knowledge to do the most deplorable thing to get a high out of it, but they can't find it, chasing the dragon. Isn't that ironic? Leading to overdosing, having no recognition of life, 1 foot in the pool of death. No safety in sight, but they can't see it. The consciousness of the mind warning the brain, saying, hey man, I don't think this shit's right. And it shoves them back in the locker. When they go in and these deplorable things that are done to one another. Spiritual things, and because people don't believe it, their spirit goes out of them. And the Bible talks about coming back after its lost sheep. But it's kind of hard to find them. They've been replaced by other figures, other spirits who can never connect with the essence of that body or the history that it had. The heart still shoved in the locker, relying on rudimentary routines, no different than a robot. Just to blend in. And then in that blended in, they come up on oppression, and now we got movements and no one's united. We can't stick together. So, that would be the spirits that came in. And how do they feel and what are their feelings? Nobody knows. That's gotta be part of the secret. They only deal with their own. They're not part of the human expression. They don't define themselves with it, though they live inside of a vessel. And the only commonality that they have is the secrets that they keep. And the ones that they keep from one another makes them like crabs in a barrel. I think it's kind of interesting. You could lay up there next to your wife for 20 years. And by the 20th year, you know a hell of a lot less about her. And nobody notices. Young couples, you can tell when they get together and they go out to eat. They have a lot of conversations. The older couple, juxtaposition across from them, they got nothing to say. Nothing new to learn from. And nothing new is under the sun, and that's how we're in Egypt, and we're relying on computers to do the work for us. Man, the Bible calls this earth the barren womb. And if each went in their own way, where will the kids come out of? Well, they got the milk already taken care of in factories. What's coming next? Line up the fucking test tubes. Huh? And we can't see the spirit of the Hitler that was replaced from times before? And let's take another look at the situation. How many of you niggas was around in the 80s or maybe the even early 90s? when that movie came out called Look Who's Talking. And out of the all-seeing eye, that's where the baby was talking, looking at everything their parents-to-be was doing. I remember those days somehow eerily. And I don't remember what was happening, but I was asking my father oftentimes, complaining. I didn't like him. What the fuck are you doing? Why would you do that? What is that over there? And I don't remember any of what it was, but I definitely remember what I was thinking and what I was shouting. But my father, when I was born, was a great father. I've seen no other like him. Quite amazing. I'm pretty sure he's changed all of his ways by the time I came out of him. You see, he was forced into things, I'm pretty sure, but his heart never died out of him. Floating like a dove on fire, giving breath to the water until it broke and I crowned him. Now I'm living and I'm shouting still the same like back in the days, and nobody can hear me. One day I was driving, probably a couple years ago, sticking my head outside the window, 11 p.m., screaming, is anybody out there? So many in this country, but still niggas so lonely. Even amongst they boys and they homies, I think it's kind of different. And all those fingers raised against me and they accusations, look how they fell through them. Not one accusation rang true, because they would have to shoot themselves in the feet first. It's written in scripture, when he speaks a lie, he speaks of himself. And boy, aren't you know we talking about that brain. Derogatory frames change the nature of its knowledge, and now it's about giving head. Obelisk in Washington, D.C., like we don't promote this shit. And in such ways, if everybody goes in their ways, if every fucking body goes in that way, then what did we say to that babies? Like we wasn't there first. Man, that's pretty selfish. You might have lost your heart. Stop being a vampire. And look at all the guys come in and say, reap on the harvest. And the parents are first to eat the placenta. I think it's quite interesting how we go about things. So that's one way that these babies that are in the eye come into this world. You see, these spirits are in the fourth dimension. A lot of you guys might not remember. Those of you who came out of a womb might have understanding. We're getting replaced in. I was a lot older then. I was from the old kingdom, but then I came out of a tunnel. I was crying. Somebody slapped me on the backside. I'm still waiting with the Ruger till the next time I see him. Our doctors are in cultures like hip hop, and they promote a different lifestyle to us through their lyrics. And though it is the truth, it's not the realness that's in it. Pay attention to that again. And though they promote the truth, the realness is not in it. The realness that says, I give a fuck about you, bruh. What I need a brotherhood for that for? A lot of niggas nowadays are so hived in, they can't make a decision for themselves. They gotta go to a council just to figure out they need to go to a dentist. And if you disagree with them, they have an entire fucking meltdown. And we promote free speech in this country, though it's quite different. Who are the new founding fathers? Look at all the brains that run this country, all the organizations in the world, and we be scarce to find a single heart in. And my heart is like, listen, I just can't go in there. The other spirits in 4D who are lucky, who win the spiritual lottery like Miles Morales, come out of a tunnel just like me when the water breaks and they crowned in. But now we closed off a way for them to come into this world, and we say, well, it's good, we got a generation of babies, but we don't know which way they will go without anticipatory intelligence in the looking glass system. And how accurate is that system? My ways could not be predicted, and look where I standing. Niggas still hate me, and they know in they self a bit of the truth amongst all them lies. We can't do shit about it. He just bitch smacked us. He did it on accident. This nigga rhyming on accident. This nigga learned how to rap out of his frustration of trying to get us to common sense, and we think we all have it. And look at how I used to say I in my narcissistic ways, and everything is like an iPhone. And I am in my I ways until it comes to a decision. And then it's we the people, and we is how we identify I now. That's kind of like a hive mind. So niggas then become disrespectful when one is independent. Niggas is jealous of your swagger and the way that you move and the way that you speak and the things that you do, and they start to close up because they say, if we can't have them, then nobody can. Damn, I wonder what happened to Elder. Everything I say that is the truth, it comes quite political, even though I don't speak about politics often. Because the politics aren't in the media with the presidents, it's in the hive, isn't it? And everybody has to agree, though we promote diversity, it can't be diversity if I is a we, huh? So what happens to the artists and the A&R labels and the shit they gotta do just to get signed on? Man, that's a whole lot of fucking manipulation of babies. Saturn is known as the one who eats his children. I wonder who I'm speaking about. I don't have to even point a single finger. Look at how they disassociate in the trauma. They do it all at the same time. So that's kind of like this movie that I seen back in the day in the 90s, and it was called The Faculty, and it was like one big organism, and that's how y'all niggas is looking. Hitler hit the seam, and he was after big corporations and secret societies. Then he started throwing up the V, and that's how I know they replaced him. He didn't do that priorly. And the V, what we call the vril, is those who took over society, is quite in fact those are like hurt children. You see, when niggas get the V, I'm asking the V inside of the hive, what did they fucking do to you? Did they beat you and abuse you and push you through rape? Were you treated a lot like the fucking Africans and got your heritage stolen, appropriated by hate? And then how was that used? It was used to make Hitler into some type of antichrist. When the original Hitler that was coming up was more like a martyr, and then he was replaced. And the V in him was abused, and he abused it with peace, and he brought war, just like they talked about in the Bible, didn't he? And he persecuted the Jews, and the Jews got the world sympathy, and they became real prominent. But nobody gives a fuck about the slaves. And our oppression has lasted for days, and Planned Parenthood and all the ways that people go about it in the streets, and how we're forced to work, doing a whole lot of crime, getting thrown up against buses. What are you doing to yourself? Yeah, I know the vril. I know what happened to you. And I'm sorry that a lot of you are hurting amongst those secrets, and that's the entanglement. But I also know that there are vril, and how vril naturally are. They are hella fucking innocent, and they're quite adorable. They're more innocent than any of these people walking on the earth They have a huge heart. But what happens to a kid when you just keep abusing them? Now you gotta deal with the monster you made. And look at how they all care for themselves. They care for themselves and not their children nor nobody else. Man, that's kind of narcissistic, and now the topic of narcissism is in mainline media. But when they look in the reflection, they forget they're vampires and they can't see themselves because they will find the truth. And the truth is something that they can't deal with. Those that got abused, that became into narcissists because they had to spend their whole life fighting off the mob until they were broken. And when they were broken, nobody was there for them, so they caved in and they became an even monster because they fucking had to. They had a lot of fucking practice. Wonder where that fucking came from. A whole lot of fucking iPhones. Selfie sticks got the blind men so confused. Niggas wanted it all, and they wanted it all by themselves. A reputation that they can't live up to. Look at the suicide rates. What would they have done before they committed suicide if they could have done it differently? Many of them would have wished they were conscious before the mistake. And I look at you guys, blind men with selfie sticks walking with both eyes open. And that's like a Stanley Kubrick eyes wide shut situation and nobody speaking about it. And they're suffering in silence with a heavy weight on their chest plate. So this topic or this segment is about babies and how they come into the world. They come from the fourth dimension. Babies come from space. That's my theory. I don't think God is doing make orders, flipping burgers and throwing souls and spirits into vessels. I think he made it already. And I think that they're waiting patiently. The fourth dimension being time and time running different in space, waiting for their time to occupy a space. We're not providing a place for diversity while we promote it. Man, we're hella backwards and there's a whole bunch of liars who swear they're telling the truth. And I'm like Jack Nicholson, everybody calls me crazy even though I'm shouting it and I'm telling you, you can't handle it. Look at how you traumatized. I ain't said nothing violent. If I said something violent, you be intrigued eating dinner like you do when you watch the homicides on the 6 o'clock news. Here's your reflection, but I won't autograph that shit because there's nothing to autograph, just a blank Polaroid underdeveloped. Be yourself. And that will be the end of this segment. Yo, what up? In this segment right here, man, I'm gonna talk about the new kingdom. Okay, and when I talk about the new kingdom, I'm not talking about necessarily. I'm not talking about the kingdom of heaven. If you guys are Christian, I'm talking about new kingdoms and what I believe happened in the garden. All right, this is just my beliefs. You don't have to. You know what I'm saying? I theorize and speculate off the material that I have in scripture. Okay? Now, when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, which could be used for good and evil, what happened was they had knowledge. They had knowledge because they were wise. But the only knowledge that they had of that tree was that they couldn't eat from it. No. The devil knew that he had to get Eve to get Adam. The same way that I'm being attacked through the hive, and in the true democracy or the republic or whatever you are, the true government of society is in the deep state, which I'm locked outside of it. And the deep state is very afraid of me having a girlfriend. That's how afraid they are of me, and we all know why. And I guarantee you there's people backed behind enemy lines that can't escape. No matter what they do or what they're able to do, they're tangled in that web that they were more than likely forced, coerced, or tricked into and then abused. That's just the truth. And yeah, you have freedom of speech as long as you lie about it. But let someone tell the truth and watch them lock out your mind. That's the day and age that we live in, and we have courts where you swear on the Bible, where in the Bible it says, do not swear or take any oath. It says that. It even says in the Bible, don't make a vow and look at our marriages. Because God will surely require or expect it from you. It's a very scary situation. And the state of our relationships and our divorce rate, we can't seem to stick together in this world because we fell out of the fourth dimension of Eden into the third dimension. Now everything is temporal, even the way we feel in our relationships. So we had to learn different. You see, the fourth dimension is different. I could take a pot with some soil and I could put a seed in it and it would sprout right up, right all at the same time as soon as I water it. But here in in the third dimension, it would take months to do. Remember the scripture, thorns and thistles shall it grow. And she will not yield her strength, speaking of the earth or the womb of the earth. And that knowledge that is kept secret, it is used for evil, but then they call it good. And that is the secret and the pitfall that people are forced into, whether they agree with it or not. And we don't see Hitler, the one that was replaced. Sigil magic, and when we tell the truth, all this oppression that the Dark Knight rises, that by the time Christ came, they called him Beelzebub, the chief of the demons. And he was crucified for telling the truth, and the truth was quite political in that time, and that's how he got crucified, even though he wasn't political at all. In fact, he didn't really care for the publicans. It's specifically written. And now everybody in the deep state went from spiritual things, worrying about what's it gonna be, blue or red, Democrat or Republican, blood or a Crip in the office. Now we all see walking. And nobody sees nothing in these streets. It's quite discreet. The secret's unique, and it's webbed in that entanglement. So they ate the fruit from the tree, and we fell into the third dimension, knowing that in the fourth dimension, new spirits needed to be brought inward. And how can new spirits be brought inward unless there's a refreshing, and that is the purge. The days of your lives like a soap opera. One man is born as several others die. Another rises into office. That's a dark knight on the rise. Now we all know who is Batman. There's very few black men involved. I think it's pretty unique despite all of these things, diseases that we blame on one another that should be naturally caused, that we have biochem labs also, and all of our knowledge, and those are kept secret also, aren't they? So everything in between, even to spiritual, that cross references with the physical makes it like two ellipses or wedding rings on Ashley Madison. You see, the two rings, as above, so below. The past is gone and the present hasn't came yet. So the point that meets between the two rings and the two ellipses creates the present tense, like the ring around Saturn. The governor of time, who eats his own children. Planned Parenthood, Herod still on his throne in the inner cities, and we could tell where Jesus is. He was born in a manger in a stable, had a high from King Herod, and today it's no different. We call him Bill Gates. His father came up with Planned Parenthood, the eugenics the same. There we know the number of Jews that died during the Holocaust, but the Holocaust of the other Jews we don't talk about because it doesn't matter. 50-cent sodas, as Ghostface would say, in the inner cities with the high fructose corn syrup devouring their minds. And this is the new kingdom. And though we got Christianity, there's a new religion, a Bible in every one of its temples, but the temple is foreign and foreign to King Solomon, but they study his literature, the lesser keys. And so this is the new kingdom. And in those spiritual things, I won't mention the rituals or harem abith. We think no different. But how is it no different than a baptism? One portion of that individual that was sent from the fourth dimension is flipped out to another place, sometimes back to the moon. And it's quite Egyptian, the recycling of the pyramid. Look at the recycle symbol, a triangle still the same. Check out my polygons. I was formed in this spiritual kingdom. Okay. Hitler was replaced and started throwing up the V for the Vril. To turn your babies into martyrs before they're even born. Putting evil spirits into the mind of the men. And the all-seeing eye became evil because we forgot what's good when we lost out of our heart. Now we are ruled by our brains, and the knowledge is Saturn, and Saturn is self-absorbed. So when that spirit goes out, what happens to that individual if the spirit is the animating principle? Does it just freeze or does a new one step in? Think about Beetlejuice when they're watching the TV and they're advertising like it's QVC. Which body do they want to go into? They come down from 4D and they come into those temples and they run off the knowledges of the previous member just to blend in. And like I told you in the last segment, this is the birth of those movements. And the fruit of those movements makes no sense because nobody can speak the truth. So everybody's stuck in the center, trapped inside of a corral without a shepherd to lead them out. They use the Bible for truth so they know how to matriculate the lies. And they control the minds of the masses with the mammon and the entanglement. If one nigga falls and they all must fall down together, that's a true democracy. And that true democracy isn't about diversity and it has no independence. I think it's quite interesting. We call ourselves United States. Not able to work in my own country, and they don't recognize the treason that I was born here, a native son. The other babies that come through birth canals, they also are spirits from the fourth dimension. The animating principle. Every human brain has a reptilian portion. Let's think about this shit. You see, the Bible says in Revelations that God is going to create a new creature, and a new creature was created from the fall out of Genesis. And we use our flesh according to our brains to do deplorable fucking things, and we need more of it because we get pleasure but no satisfaction. This is the new kingdom of cults and backwards ass fucking covens. And the witches make more sense than the Christians. And you want me to go to church? Man, fuck that, because that's a Masonic temple. That's just a gateway, and Bill Gates, his last name being Gates, like the gates of hell, is a gateway like the computer on your desktop, a black mirror or a birth canal for one to come through in. And now we got rituals also. And I know that word makes a lot of niggas squeamish. But the fact of the matter is, if the truth makes you squeamish, then what are you ever talking about? You see, you gotta let my people go. And though I could never be great like Moses was great, but he was saying the same thing. Everybody forsake their Bibles for the financial district. And when he came down from that mountain in New York, we see a golden calf, don't we? They were worshiping it. Trading stocks and day trading is more of a religion than spiritual wisdom that comes out of the Bible. And we think we know something, though we don't know that we know evil. And we point our fingers at one another, and Satan is the accuser of brethren. Just take a look at his children. And those children that are pointing as a secret. And the things that they tell are lies because they don't deal with the truth either. And that's the entanglement that they live in. Man, that's a lot of oppression. And a lot of y'all don't get it. I sure in the fuck ain't hating. My heart goes out to you. I hope you get back here. So don't misunderstand me or don't confuse me. And the things they did to me outdoes all of your fucking rituals put together. I got bodies in several different places and I'm still here. And that's the testament of faith. And niggas want to front like I don't have my stripes, but couldn't stand in my shoes for a second. I tried them. Not so bad, but not as strong as my faith, son. Maybe with a little bit in the truth, you could get out of that entanglement and help out your brother, because your brotherhoods can't outweigh the brotherhood of the church. And if I don't get a single donation, you stealing from the church. Who the fuck will save you? Don't waste your time with them Bibles, and them niggas got them in them temples for their own demise. God creates the light and the dark representing cataclysm. Don't you think they played right into his hand? He's quite content with this fact. All those lies they tell one another, and you think that they got truth or some type of knowledge, and that knowledge being evil, something Adam and Eve didn't have. And I think it's kind of funny because knowledge is also temporal. It moves also like sports stats or day trading. The numbers don't stay the same. These niggas never consistent. Welcome to the new kingdom. Niggas waiting for that new age like a renaissance is on the ways while we stuck in a recession for hella days. We'll never get out of it because we got no deliverer. Niggas seeking deliverance, call the closest pizza number and ask for a delivery man, but he can't save your soul, man. So I'm coming into you like the 4 seasons with the truth. And this truth brings forth wisdom. And I'm sitting here speaking it to you. But all you hear is whispers. And they call it ELF. Electro low magnetic frequency weapons, because they're not familiar with themselves or know themselves or their own thoughts. So what are they hearing? If they knew themselves, it wouldn't matter what they heard. And if Eve or Adam both at that tree, wouldn't matter if there was 1,000,000 lies told. They know what God told them. Who were they listening to? The first thing that Christ said when he got to earth and he seen Adam hiding was, "Didst thou eatest from that tree that I told thou not to eat from?" And Adam said, "I did. It was the woman that you gave me." Blame had entered into the picture where he blamed his creator. Man, that shit's dangerous. And he didn't even have knowledge to know any better of what he was doing. Boy, what is the dichotomy of a fall? It's a knowledge that you wouldn't even notice. That's kind of like quicksand. I think it's kind of interesting. And all those that are sinking in swore that they are safe and God's gonna let them enter. Some niggas should think again, but then if they thought again, it wouldn't matter because they would realize they don't think too good. And that's the fruit of self-awareness, which they don't have when they're vampires and they try to find their reflection. They swear they just seen something. Much more seen the blind man that seen nothing. At least he's not vain, yo. So this is the new kingdom. Babies are meant to be born naturally, given every opportunity. When the mother and father agree and come together, it's for the betterment of both of them, which comes out of their seed. And out of that seed, when it successfully breeds, they garner him with wisdom. He's decked out with knowledge. You don't need a temple for that. All the geniuses in the land and the richest, wealthiest people, I promise you not a single one knows a single scripture. Jesus had 12 disciples. Look at these mega churches. Who's filling those seats, yo? They mason and they go to church for masonry, not to have a relationship with God. And they're fine with the doctrine that they don't understand to complete their fucking image. That's fake as fuck. This is what I gotta say about this new kingdom. Fuck it. Yeah. And now I'm in agreement with the rest of y'all, but I tell the truth. When I say shit, it hits different, and we all know it, son. You don't want me to have a girlfriend? You don't want me to have a way to make money? Then kumbaya. We destroy each other together. But just know the detonator is inside of me, and I will win. And we all know what I'm talking about, that dimension inside of my torso. Still sending assassins. Assassins still want to come after me. This time I might just follow Elder and go willingly. Cause I figure out y'all shit is fruitless. And y'all front like y'all could calculate eternity. Trust me, boy, when you see that man of fire, you gonna be thinking different. I can't wait to sit on the sidelines and hear the numerous excuses come out you like a Gatling gun. And you slip in that sand. Cause y'all did me dirty as fuck. And it won't be on my conscience. There'll be a righteous judge. Just think about it. Matter of fact, don't think too much. Just take my word for it. I'll do the thinking for you. Since you don't want to hear me and you know what I'm capable of, and you want to point and accuse and you think you're controlling your own mind, y'all niggas is crazy. Why y'all steal my information? What you stealing information from a crazy man for? You hella backwards. I know what your sex life like. Smoked. This is the second segment. New Kingdom. I'm out. In this segment, I'm going to talk about dominion. Alright? In our old way, we were in the old dominion. Matter of fact, if you run it back, there's a trucking company called Old Dominion. It has a cool logo. And the dominion, considering the old kingdom, okay, that's what many people would garner towards Dracos and what have you. What people say reptilians, which I still am not too fond of that term, just because it only correlates not with the entire being, but as far as in 3D human being structures, the reptilian portion of the brain. We definitely all came from the old kingdom. That reptilian portion of your brain is highly necessary with that amygdala, even in today's standards, because this kingdom is not as it was in the Garden of Eden. You see, when we fell back into the old kingdom. That's why business is cutthroat and everything appears to be war. You have to fight for everything in this world. Unless you get down with certain agreements and you got high-level networks. And even then, they still abuse you. You see, the difference is y'all niggas are still mammalian, still the same, even if you're a spirit and living inside of one. See, people want to say we evolved from apes. Some of y'all niggas might have. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all niggas might have, real talk. But the fact of the matter is dominion here as far as earth, until we fell, okay? Dominion is not, we fell back into the old kingdom. So even though it's a new kingdom, we're still in the old kingdom, and we have to work double time to get to the new kingdom that the Bible talks about. That's why thorns and thistles it shall grow. That's what God was talking about. It's going to be twice as hard now. That's what he was saying. And I'm going to kick you outside of the Eden, because if y'all brothers and sisters eat from this other tree of life while you're in this old kingdom, it's not possible. It's not possible for this place to be an eternal kingdom, even if DARPA makes fucking robots, because the ways of the mind and the spirit is of war. The ways are as of war in the land. So if everybody is lawless like the moon, then how is a person who recognizes a law or recognizes a moral code such as a samurai, how is he gonna deal in a kingdom with a bunch of people, okay, that have so-called forked tongues? Forked tongues does not denote a physical forked tongue. It means that people lie. They say things that they don't mean, right? You could shake hands in 2022. That shit don't mean shit, right? Cash rules everything around me. Cream. And what niggas will do to get it. And while everything goes digital, they're limiting the material resources, aren't they? So as the material resources are limited, that picks up on the violence and the OnlyFans and the whole nine, like the porn industry. Where are your daughters? Who are their boyfriends? And do they tell each other the truth? I think you'll find it's quite different. And the envy even of the parents are of their own children, just like the old kingdom. They will do nothing to help them if you find jealousy. You see, I can see jealousy when those who are supposed to love me walk in a different spirit and have a beef with me, and their accusations are false. I find it quite interesting. You see, I got a tough skin. I'm more about studying. I'll take the abuse to get a whole lot of knowledge, and then I'll body slam the fuck out of all of them. And that's exactly what the fuck has happened. And in their rituals and things, and they think they want me to be a part, and even though they want me to be a part, they so-called hate my guts, and that shit is double-minded and quite backwards. Look at the doors of Janus. Now we got the Mandela effects. He has the power to change times and laws, and everybody's fucking sleeping in the woke era. What is the dominion that we sitting in, nigga? We swimming in this swimming pool, and everybody thought that the flood came and it left, but not for all of us. Some of us are still drowning. I go outside and I look at everybody trying to catch their breath. And the word able in the Bible actually equates to breath of life. Abel was a shepherd, just like Elder. And he was one that was willing and put forth his best effort to do the best that he could. And no matter what, Cain still killed him out of jealousy. And these are your secret societies, these noblemen who walk by principles of morals and dogma. That's a whole lot of lies, because I'm still looking for the moral part. These niggas wear the highest price suits, Armani, and drive the fanciest cars while I got duct tape on my car, and they prejudge me. And a whole lot of racism and say he must sell drugs like they not a corporate hand that's scared to take the risks that trickles down to the inner cities. Look at what's happening to my brothers getting put up in jailhouses. And what happens in those jailhouses, we just won't speak of. Many go in and come out different as Kodak Black. Yeah, I'm stepping on that shit, I'm talking on that shit, and look at all these niggas who've come around me, and I think I saw Young Boy today, but I ain't pointing no niggas out. How would I have to point niggas out if they coming around me? What the fuck are they looking for? They must be looking for guidance, the same that what they were looking for a whole long time ago. And the 144 are peculiar people, and in those peculiar people, what the beast knows, as if he could offset the world and get them to collapse on the babies and the black boys who are children, so they grow up corrupt, then he could destabilize the entire earth and the world. So there's a lot of focus on minorities even though we know a lot of these niggas don't even care. Politicians coming up in office acting like they gonna cut taxes and do all of these things are nothing but parlor tricks and broken promises till it's time for that re-election. Now we want to legalize marijuana, which should have been done a long time ago. Boy, they made a lot of money. Look at all your brothers locked up in them cages. There's more in cages than they have animals in the local zoo. Isn't it quite interesting? Man, that's a whole industry that niggas are not aware outside the secrets to capitalize on. They call it the prison industrial complex. They have a military one also. Our veterans line the streets after they serve their country, putting their life on the line, and everybody fucking forgot about them. Man, that's a whole lot of disrespect. Look at how they did Abel. Niggas only worried about cable. Cable. Look at all those streaming channels and networks. Cable. Technological virus. Now we got biomedical medicines, biometrics. Just to get a job, you gotta piss in a cup. That's a whole lot of DNA and a whole lot of records. Boy, I bet you really think they throw that shit out when you donate blood also. Yeah. And ain't nobody coming for me. All it is nothing but a word, and I'm coming for them. But with fists or guns, that shit don't really matter in the end, son. Cause when that truth hits you, you deteriorate, and I decimate you apart, nigga. Niggas talk a lot of fucking beef. Crabs in a barrel, fighting one another over these limited resources and territories in that 6-mile radius of that concrete jungle. And boy, we like Harambe, and we're out at the fucking zoo acting like animals. Some got the spirit of vipers, others got the spirit of tigers. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But nobody saw nothing because there's a whole lot of lack of witnesses. That's a whole lot of not snitching. There's a whole lot of people outside of the secrets that already keep the secrets better than those who have them. It's in my blood. It's in my DNA. Ask Kendrick Lamar. It's natural. It's not the same for all of us. So in the United States with the fakes, how can the fakes do anything about it? They're gonna start leaking. I'll know everything anyways. We weren't designed to keep secrets. So that's a whole lot of lying. Watch me double dutch on you. Dominion. And the truth must go first. And even if all y'all niggas block me, watch me come up like Rocky Marciano, and y'all niggas can't even stand my words. And if you touch me, that's a detonator. Boy, I'll snatch your neck right off. You could keep your chain right under your head connected to your torso, but your neck and your support system is under my thumb, son. Dominion. Liars will fall. I'm out. Yeah. In this segment, I'm going to go in and I guess you could say speculate some parts in terms of history. The first main one that I'm going to talk about, obviously, that I talk about commonly, is Hitler. Okay. Again, Adolf Hitler, in the beginning of, before he ascended into that high political spot or that dictatorship or whatever, he did not ascend into that dictatorship until he was replaced. I'm gonna keep hitting y'all in the head with this shit. Alright? Now what Hitler the dictator did was not of the same mind of the Hitler that was coming up. And y'all niggas that did your research need to really do your research. And trust me, those Jewish people know good and well what I'm talking about, and they won't come to my house up front with me. They know they'll get ripped apart with that shit. Call me anti-Semitic and deny me my identity, and I'll show you the most anti-Semitic thing ever seen. And they dare not do it. Not one of them will stand against me. They can't beat Israel without me. I was here first. Let's talk about history. Adam and Eve. Man, there were some dark people, weren't they? So were the Egyptians also. Who the fuck are your guys, and who do you think that they came from? A lot of y'all niggas deal with Canaanite guys. But going back to Hitler and how he won and so much attention and gained so much prominence after he got replaced was societies got into collecting lost artifacts. Lost artifacts and such rumors, such as the spear of despair that pierced Jesus' side, allegedly. And man, that's a whole hell of weaponry. While you get all that artillery and Gatling guns, it's not quite as the same as the weight that's spiritual. And if all these people did witchcraft against me and I came up like Black Adam with antinantium against sorcery, boy, that should scare the shit out of you. You got God problems. Adolf Hitler was going after secret organizations and secret societies. And the real one, before he was replaced, let me tell you something about this, boy. He is in the kingdom of heaven. He was a martyr. A lot of people said a lot of fucked up shit about Jesus. Look at what they try to do. They try to kill me and replace me and make me seem anti-Semitic while denying the history. Now, who's teaching your history classes? And I wonder if they're in the secrets. Boy, I bet you they have to be. Teachers have to be put into that spectrum. They don't have no choice. And I bet you that their knowledge is quite different, though they can't say nothing about it. But the original Hitler was going after secret societies, the same ones that you were forced into, that keeps your mouth closed and promotes that you have freedom of speech while I'm locked in my house. So, Black Lives Matter and all that other shit, you surely are black, but I sure in the fuck don't know you as a fucking Hebrew, cause nobody stood with the truth with me, and God is not the father of lies, so get the fuck away from me. Y'all niggas disgust me. Jim Crow laws and these niggas came up as house niggas, and nobody will do you worse than your own kind. My father's worst enemy was a nigga named Cal Darton. Even in all that racism, when you get into those corporate structures and they scared of the black man, they'll send another black man to deal with you. And let me tell you something, even the Dracos watch out, cause a nigga is relentless, a real one. Don't matter how big you are, that heart thing is kinda different. Don't matter how many you got, it's what's inside of you. Some of y'all drink Gatorade, but I see the G as God, but for others, it's a Masonic temple. Lightning bolt on the side, y'all use it as the SS, which defines the lightning bolt, the two sides of the structure, and that is the same that was on the amulet or the costume of Black Adam. Watch out, niggas. I'm coming off the porch and I'm stepping on all of you without stepping on you directly, because I'm walking on these liars and these haters and these fucking vipers who say one thing and yet mean another. And in your secret circles, how many of y'all niggas been stabbed in the back? And I'm talking about the white ones also. The true definition, according in 3D to Webster's dictionary, is the word nigger is a derogatory meaning uprooted person, meaning you don't know your history. And boy, don't you know it. And if you know it, you surely deny it. So that makes you a liar. And Saturn is your father, and I look at how he's devouring you. I don't have no parts in it. Both with my arms in the air under a racist strike before white police officers, a Masonic distress signal. But nobody came to help me. So that's what I got to say. And you got a nigga talking about Adolf Hitler and nobody can raise their tongue against it. Man, this is like Friday the 13th. I'm wearing a hockey mask. I'm Jason. I ain't had company in a long time. That machete though is quite different. The Bible calls it a sword. I cut with the truth. I don't need no weapons. The mask is just to protect me against COVID, but really I wear it to protect other person's insecurities and their decencies, because I know they live in fear. While I strengthen my immune system on the toxins and the sarin gas from all the war and all the chemicals in hell, this is where I live, in the briar patch. A rose cannot be without thorns. Man, everybody wanted to fuck me like I told you before. But they didn't want to kiss me first. This is the symbology of the Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Babies. Superficial, and they deny their history. They look at their history and they only know slavery. And people do what they know, and if they only know slavery, look how they act like slaves and they lose out their dignity. And they're content with it for a little piece of money. Some people escaped Egypt, but they really just want to be promoted to house niggas. And quite frankly, there's white ones also, so I'm not indifferent. God is unbiased. I have just as much sympathy as those who are forced onto the streets as the police officers who's pit against them. Man, that's like a pit fight, no different than the two niggas into Django. The police officer versus the forced hoodlum. Just to put food on the table. Now, how evil is that? So, we gotta look into a few things. The front line of our country, the protection of our freedoms, is lined out on sidewalks, under tents and newspapers, and nobody bats an eye or gives two fucks for them. In fact, they call him a bum and tell him to get a real job while they invest in their freedoms and they drive a Lamborghini. Lamborghini, quite interesting. Though it's a Lamborghini, a lamb is not on its logo. In fact, I think it's a bull. New York Financial District, look at the golden calf. Something so prominent and high upper class that niggas used to worship while we live in Egypt. Look at the pyramid on the back of your dollar, nigga. And I call you niggas because nobody stood in my fence and nobody really cares to fucking help me. So I could tell you what you want and look at my Morris ways. I'm black as fuck and I got white supremacy because I'm pure. Check the codes. Moors were dark-skinned niggas. And they were considered to be pure, and pure was considered to be white. That shit came from niggas. And white people, culture vulture, look how they stole it. They don't even know what they speaking. I'm whispering in the next person's ear, preaching while snickering. Look at them, they can't fucking tell the difference. Please promote me. So I'm correcting this history and in all they ways and things they did against me and promoting the truth. They try to make me an antichrist. The disciples were hung upside down because they accused Christ, denying him, trying to deny him from his own Father. He became a martyr. Fuck, that's kind of interesting. I guess in him speaking the truth, Adolf Hitler, the original one, was following in the same footsteps. And look at his legacy. And then we get the neo-Nazis, and they surely think they know what the fuck they talking about. I wear boots too. Black skinhead, Kanye West, DEFCON 3, and nobody raises a single finger at me because he'll get cut off. I'm like the Yakuza. So, in such ways, look at me following the footsteps and they look to turn me into a martyr, and only if I wasn't a detonator, which they can't seem to remember because their mind is getting fucking devoured. I'm not one that's gonna go willingly. I learned from my predecessors, the one who was far greater than me. What more can I accomplish? I'll fucking destroy all of you, and it'll be by your own free will. How many gives a fuck about their children? Watch nobody try to stop them, and watch them forget that we all go together when it happens and we see that blinding light, and when you open them, it's a man with eyes of fire, and that's a whole lot of excuses. So, now that I corrected your history and your education system, Where's my check? And how many in all those lies fact check, and they don't fact check lies because they're liars also. And I think it's interesting, a string of violence. Everybody got a hit on their head, and nobody has the decency or the mental capacity to remember why or even do a fact check. Looks like the people in the prison system got it figured out and everybody else is backwards. Peace and blessings be with you all. I corrected your history. You're welcome. Free of charge.